Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Jennifer Krob.
Happy
Krob, did we want to combine the meetings or what do we want to do? Because Art was not going to be able to attend his meeting.
Right. Well.
And let me say this also, because there was a part of this that I noticed, a section that I noticed that was missing in all of this, and I can start sharing my screen.
Sure.
Because I have been educating myself a lot about SIRTs.
Nice.
We have about so we didn't have about, I know that a big pain point is basically communicating with the actual projects. I think that we should communicate with some projects and figure out how this all could be useful to them. At some point we will have to commit upstream. So getting their point of view as far as, and I know one of my favorite videos that I actually put on here was this one that it was a panel that you actually chaired.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually really good. It's actually amazing.
But
it was discussed in that video that getting a lot of reports, and I know this happens in Gen 2 a lot, but getting a lot of duplicate reports is a major pain point for upstream.
Yep. Sure
and I
is.
know that irritates some people a lot.
Yep.
And I know some people take it the wrong way too. So I think that that's the type of thing that perhaps we can alleviate, because I know that also is. So one thing I wanted to point out, and in everything that I've seen and read, I also think a lot of it is that a lot of people they pre-assume things. They pre-assume that sending a report upstream is going to cause this big problem. And obviously I'm talking about specific people. I'm not talking about bug bounty people. I'm talking about a lot of because that's the other thing. I don't know why this got on this stuff. I got to fix that. There are a lot of people that have security teams. They're not necessarily SIRT teams, if you will.
Yeah,
but
it's the people that do the bug triage for the security stuff. Yeah.
Right. And those are the people I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Gen 2 and Red Hat is one of them. And they don't do upstream because they don't want to cause a friction point between anyone. And they end up fixing things in isolation, and that ends up creating a friction point in it of itself.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that this is where we get to part 2, which is to survey our intended audience, because First has a video that I saw about establishing personas and establishing your audience. So I kind of moved this because initially this table was up here, and I'm trying to keep this style consistent. So I moved the table out and I kind of put this in its own section. And then this is where the section 2 part comes, and where I'm kind of battling right now.
Yeah.
Because nowhere here are we actually recording the scope of what actually we intend. And the problem, after doing all of this, at no point are we actually stating this is the scope and this is going to be the intended audience.
Yeah. We should do that and then set an annual reminder to review that.
So I think that should be 1.3, and I should move this down.
That's
I'm
fine,
still working with this one.
That's fine. That's perfect, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I was working with that, and I'm working on my times. And then this one, I'm going to work this afternoon with Glenn, because Glenn has some security buddy ideology and how we could put that in with SKF and whatnot, if you think that's useful.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if it'll precisely fit within SKF again, because it's not you can't lab out being a buddy.
We're thinking more about the API in terms of because we're trying to say, so we really have 2 products in SKF, which is the people that want the information to create their own internal information, like their own security champion program. And then we have what we're calling now SKF Web, which is basically the front end of SKF, which is the labs and like how we implement it and how we're presenting the information. But you can present it however which way you want, and that's why it's open data and that whole spiel.
Yeah.
So that's why we were thinking that maybe the security champion like information would maybe fit here to some degree.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah. And yeah, so that's basically where I am at with all of that. And I am planning on finishing this today, but I've been learning a lot, and I actually have been enjoying myself. And yeah, the security at happy hour is very cool. And I was actually going to ask, maybe later on or in the education sig or at some other point, we could talk about including the security happy hour and SKF, because that taxonomy video is pretty clutch.
You like that? Oh, good.
I'm just saying, I mean, it was a very good discussion.
Awesome. Yeah. Those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those. So yes. And I've noticed that Katie is very involved in this PSIRT thing.
She is.
Yes.
She is indeed.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe getting her opinion on some of this stuff might not be a bad idea.
That is something we certainly could do.
Because I've noticed I was actually reading her PSIRT paperwork. I don't know if you can still see my screen, but I've been
Nope.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. But I've been doing my research. But yeah, that's where I'm at with my stuff.
Okay.
And that was what I was talking about, why I needed to talk to Stream 2 about scope, because I figure that scope should come before we establish services.
I agree. And there's probably throughout both of these plans, Randall, there's probably a ton of stuff where we said, here's an idea, but we didn't actually write down steps like collect data, review the data, make a decision. We didn't go through and do some of this more prescriptive stuff.
Right. Well, I plan on taking a little bit more ownership, because I know that we have membership numbers affected, but I was planning on actually reviewing now that I have a better grasp of everything, because Gen 2 security team is not a PSIRT. I don't know what you would call it.
It's probably not. It's a security, so it's probably more of an SIRT. So it's a security team.
I've been told that at one point Gen 2 security team was like the bee's knees, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now you have the remnants of this, so that's what I've been told.
And the P comes from product, which generally is vendors. So they have to have these types of things to protect their product portfolio, and just the principles are the same. You have to intake information, you have to do triage, you have to develop a fix, you have to release a fix. So it's the same principles.
Can I ask you an Intel question out of curiosity?
You may.
So does Intel have different PSIRTs for example, different Skylake or Coffee Lake, or is it just all one big thing?
There is one Intel PSIRT that oversees the whole portfolio. Okay. But we're in more of a distributed, like Red Hat was a centralized model where all the work was pretty much done in one spot. Right. And Intel is the opposite, where it's distributed. So we have a huge security champions network. And when the issue comes in, when we're in the triage stage, that gets delegated out to a product team.
Okay. Fair. Okay.
But again, we're a large corporation. It's different than an open source project.
No, absolutely. Well, it just helps me add context. As I said, I've been reading a lot about Intel's bug bounty program and how and I know because they have a criteria, it's very set. And I've been like, yes, this is actually, I get it now. Yep. Because
and when you move into bug bounty, because there's payment involved as opposed to a vendor disclosure program, a VDP.
Yep.
Generally because there's contracts involved, the bug bounty stuff will be much more thoroughly documented.
Wait, there's Tiano cores on this? I'm part of Tiano core. What? Yeah, because Tiano core's Intel. That's right.
We're everywhere. We're like the plague.
Well, I've always been an Intel fan, so
thank you.
Just saying.
We're okay.
And that's another thing. because at some point it'll happen. Like I'm sure AMD is part of the. There has to be because we do.
AMD has a PCERT. Yeah,
Well, what I'm saying is this: is that
I know the lady that runs it. If you want to talk to her,
I think. Well, just saying, like, wouldn't it be something that we should involve them at some point, or maybe get them on the board because AMD is not on here at all, and
well, and
in the spirit of like being multi-vendor, because I know at Gen 2
so
that's a thing.
AMD is part of FIRST, which is where the vendor security teams chill out.
Okay.
AMD does participate in open source, but I'm from the perspective we're trying to address, I am currently less interested in like a hardware vendor's perspective.
Okay. Okay.
Because there like the kernel has very rigorous processes to get drivers and new feature functionality enabled. So that's kind of a managed process in the future. And everybody actually, we had a dude from AMD. I think he's in the Vuln Disclosure SIG or working group. I don't know if he hopped on the SIG. So they do participate with the OpenSSF. But it's just that's not necessarily like a viewpoint that's a super high priority for us to get to. Eventually, yes. And if you want to come contribute stuff, absolutely.
I was saying it more because from a Gen 2 point of view, at least what I was told is that they wouldn't contribute to OpenSSF because they contribute in other open source communities where we're not speaking the right language.
No, that they're I know it's the Vuln Disclosures group.
So I was just commenting from that point of view where like, because I know that also being part of open source, I've been a part of this where like, why do you impose things that are US based on other people? Like, and then it becomes that's because US based people always think that they're like the center of the universe. And I don't want to be a part of that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it is definitely challenging to account for viewpoints around the globe. And yes, we try to be as neutral as we can. But yet now that is always a boggle, and that's like I was on a call with Wheeler where somebody jumped on him for saying the government, and he was not specifically talking about the US government because he actually does do work with ANISA and other government agencies, but because he worked in the US government and he's a US citizen, the person kind of took that as what his perspective was. And that wasn't the point he was trying to illustrate.
Right. Fair.
But it's something we have to be very mindful of is to pay attention to the international perspective.
Well, it's happened at Homebrew before because GitHub has certain issues getting into China. Yeah. So like we've been blindsided where like Chinese people get this impression like we're against them or something. And it's like, no, we just had no idea that it just didn't work. Like it was the first person that told us like, we have like this separate CDN we've set up to like mirror all your stuff. And you're like, really, you could have let us know and we could have figured it out. But I guess that works.
and like for the education group, that might be something we want to account for in the future is that different cultures learn differently. And especially in China, they do prefer to read things in Mandarin wherever possible. Right. So that might be something we need to carve off work to be geographically specific and kind of be more culturally sensitive to how training needs to be done there.
Well, the as far as the PCERT, let me bring it back to the PCERT.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is because I've been a part of conversations where other cultures also have, like, for example, there's certain people that have this expectation. It happens a lot in communities like Gnome, where I'm going to open an issue and I need a response. And when you don't respond to me, I'm going to be rude and I'm going to be arrogant and I'm going to try to be like that person that nobody likes.
Yeah, and that gets super challenging with different cultures, especially like when you're thinking like Asian cultures where they're very respectful and they don't tend to bring issues up in public. It's a little more challenging. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Because I think that's something that we could maybe handle with the PCERT, maybe, because I know people that have abandoned projects in GNOME just because there's just been too many, like, I want to say, like, dumb people. No, I know that's not the best way to describe them, but I don't know what the right word is, like privileged people or people that think that there is a commitment that now I must get a response and you didn't respond to me in 48 hours. You're a bad person. And it's like,
Well,
maybe
and
it's
we absolutely can help try to correct some of that perspective by encouraging projects to have like a security policy, a security MD that lists out what the expectations are for bug reporting and security work, so that we hopefully can deflect some of the more aggressive, closed-minded folks.
I don't know where Art is with the services, but would it be an idea of the services to kind of act as an intermediary? So therefore, if we were to accept those bug reports and then we can communicate with them, and therefore there's not 10 different people coming at them, there's one. And then
we've talked about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely an idea that was floated to become kind of like a negotiator, so to speak, or kind of a buffer between
Aggregator or
reporters.
yeah.
To kind of help projects that don't have the ability to negotiate with security researcher.
Or even large projects that feel like it's too much of a distraction to open themselves up to this, because I know that's another thing that a lot of projects feel like it's too big of an issue, or it can become a distriction. But yeah. Okay,
it was
cool.
interesting. A couple. So FIRST does conferences focused on different areas, and they have a PSIRT conference every year, and it was the one right before the world shut down, 2019, and or 2020, whatever the year. Yeah, March 2020. And Microsoft actually did a pretty extensive analysis of their reporter stable, so to speak, of people who report issues to them. And and they were looking at ways to improve their program for accessibility, because they recognize that a lot of people, like in the research arena, security researchers can be on the autism scale. So they were trying to find ways to adapt their program to be friendlier towards different perspectives and ways of reporting.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's public, but if your company's a FIRST member, I think that was like recorded. You can get hold of that presentation. It was really interesting research.
I was actually looking into becoming a FIRST member as an individual.
Yeah.
As a liaison, I believe. I was going to ask you about that later, just so you know.
Yeah. And we probably, we have friends over there, so we could ask the MSRC if they would be willing to potentially share that presentation again. Yeah. It was fascinating research, again, they're looking to try to optimize and to reduce friction in their reporting process.
No, I actually think, in fact, Crow, the aggregator idea, or like the meta PSIRT, if you will, I think would help bring OpenSSF and also Linux Foundation, make them more involved with the greater Linux community at large.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we talked about, and that's an option. And we're just going to need to make sure that, like, when all this is done, we really got to talk with Mike Dolan, who's the foundation lawyer, because we want to make sure that both, the projects and the individuals and the foundation and all the companies involved are appropriately protected, so no one is, kind of adversely put at risk.
Right.
Or any kind of liability.
Right.
But that's, we have to work out a lot of ethics stuff. Like, if somebody tells me a problem, what are my responsibilities as a SIRT volunteer versus my interests as a corporate person?
I know that's not in this plan, but would that be like, that would be like Stream 3, I believe, right?
I think that's Stream 3.
Because I don't even think we have anything like that in Stream 3 yet. I don't believe. Could be wrong.
I can't believe Francis and I forgot that. We definitely we must have kind of the ethics legal conversation and have things very clearly documented, so that everybody understands kind of what the expectations are all around, so no one gets hurt or sad.
Yep. I'm glad that these discussions are bringing forth. Oh, we can do module A and B, so my subs should be A and B, like this. Like
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So should I do that on mine? Because I don't have that on mine. I just put them like this.
If you want to, it's just how are we going to assign anything? The reason I put the the numbering there is so that
Okay.
it's very easy to tie these over to an actual issue at some point.
Okay, well, maybe I'll do that, and then because it'll help me put them on here, because right now I was tracking them because of this.
Yeah, go ahead and do the.
And then
do
I was
some-
gonna get rid of this because I think that we can all, I mean, we say it's an estimate, so I don't think I need to like re-point out that everything here is.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, and I hope these tables, I'm correct with how I formatted these tables.
Yeah, I like the table idea. I'm going to open source that for the education plan.
Well, I have them already on Glenn's.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, all
You'll
right.
be seeing that again.
Yeah. And then a lot of this I'm just getting rid of because it's kind of just not relevant anymore. I've combined things so that
that's fine.
everything is in here.
That's fine.
Okay, cool.
We just don't want to lose anything. Like if there's an idea there that somebody had they wanted to put in there, don't make sure it doesn't get lost, that it is still tracked somewhere, but it can be a different number.
Yes,
that's okay.
I'm working it all in here. And I know that, like, another thing I was gonna say, so like this, I'm just gonna actually just kind of axe because it's not really attached to anything. I think the whole point was to do this in coordination with the outreach team. Not
All right, so 22M14 is where we talk about legal, and it is super sparse.
to where in
Section 22,
Yeah.
milestone 14 and 15.
Okay, I got 2
Right there, right there.
Okay, fair.
So it's super sparse.
If you need any help with this, or if Art needs any help with this, let me know. Or if you need help in any other of the plans,
yeah,
you know that I'm here.
Sure thing.
But yes, but you told me that I could start modifying these as well. Like I can make PRs against these, right?
Hell yeah. Please.
I'll do mine first. That way I don't seem like too much of a hypocrite, and then I will start.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's why I need to start casting that wide net, because we have been so wrapped up in this since July that we are kind of blind to some of the gaps potentially. So I want to start to get some external eyes before we have to go up before the governing board and whatnot.
I will.
And I also don't want to have to spend 100 hours revising everything at the last minute.
Agreed. And then we also have to combine. There's also like a combination that we're gonna do, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Brian Bellendorf. He's the foundation managing director. I asked his opinion on does he think the board would like to see one PDF, or would the way we have it broken up into 3 sections, is that acceptable to like a GB member or not? So I'm waiting on feedback there. So we might not have to, but I definitely need to go through and make sure it flows and makes sense.
Fair. I can help there, but I'll
Sure.
finish my section first.
Yeah.
And I already started with that because I've been battling that whole like, hey, I should do this and I could do that. But yeah.
Yeah, but I'll probably actually print it out because I do a better job with redlining physically, and then I'll as I find problems, I'll go back and start filing PRs.
Fair. All right, cool. So yeah, that's all I have for that. And if you want, we can go back to mine. If anyone has any comments, I did a draft PR of what I had so far moments ago, so you could actually see it. But I was planning on fleshing this out more and trying to get this done like ASAP.
Nice.
And then start on the other stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Excellent. No, I had no specific feedback. Is there anything that you think we need to?
I don't have anything on this. I don't know when you combine it, you wanted to add how that like ends up being a part of this, because I don't have anything to add.
Well, that would probably potentially that might be our procedure, is that when everything's done, we shoot a mail to that mailing list. That maybe I don't know, but I need to. I'm still waiting on a response from him right now.
Fair. I was also going to say, I saw this.
Oh
And-
yeah, I also wrote a lot of that too.
See, it's funny because my wife probably is gonna think you're like some YouTube celebrity by the time, because I've been watching Chips and Salsa all weekend. It's really funny.
Yeah, so chapter 2 and 3, I almost wrote exclusively.
Right on. But yeah, I've been going down the Chrome hole of information and videos.
It's a scary place.
It's actually really enlightening because I've realized now where we screwed up a lot of parts in gender security. But to fix it,
every day is a learning opportunity.
it's
They're
true.
a little better.
It's true. But no, I've been enjoying myself, and I enjoy being in Linux. I'll be honest. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. And yeah, I should be done by the end of the day, I think.
All right.
But yeah, so are we canceled? So I'm gonna add scope here, and
yeah, the only person that is part of group 2 that isn't here is Art and Vicky, who's kind of dropped out for now.
And Emily.
Emily's not officially part of group 2.
No?
She's always welcome because I love her feedback, but she didn't officially volunteer for section 2.
Fair. Well, I know she's been providing feedback, but I know that's pretty.
She certainly has. Mhm.
The group.
Yep. I guess,
So-
does anybody have any other thoughts? Anything in section 1 or 2 that is confusing or you think we need to work on?
These that have words need filling, right?
Right. Or knacked, one or the other. If we think the title is good enough, great. Otherwise, I just kind of put that as a space holder.
Fair. Jennifer, you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, I think, Randall, this goes to something that you brought up at the top of the call around the project maintainers and
Mhm.
speaking with them. As I was going over some of this work internally, catching up internally at my company, the comment came up about, talking to GitHub. And yeah, I think that's under M3 right there. Talking to all these people, IBM, Red Hat, it's Canonical, Gentoo, but there's nothing in there about GitHub. And the reason that came up, actually, my manager brought it up as a possibility because they just introduced their privately identified security vulnerabilities. And so
5 years later.
Yeah, so it was curious.
I've been harassing them for that for like 5 years.
So the curious item that came up, the question that came up when I was sharing the progress of the project here was, are we going to be including GitHub folks, or are they intentionally not included here?
Everybody's welcome. We absolutely can talk to them. Madison is probably the best person to talk with. She hangs out with the Vuln Disclosure Group, so she can kind of get us into their security team.
Mhm.
But no, they're not excluded. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, I think as I was speaking to it with my manager, as we were kind of looking at what's going on and where this is evolving, was my understanding was these were listed because those were areas or organizations where there were connections had. And I do know that there are 1 or 2 in the greater group that are part of GitHub. So I figured it might have just been just random, just throw something on there and it'll grow as it grows, either naturally or otherwise.
Yeah, and the group there is well established within the Linux CVD community. They're kind of equivalent to almost the distros list.
Mhm.
Which GitHub is not part of, but yeah, they have valuable experience. And I like talking to Madison and Xavier and all those folks. They're big participants in the foundation.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to take away that, my thought process was probably pretty close, that it's not that they're excluded. It's just, they weren't specifically pointed out.
But if you want to, we could add them, and we, again, the Vaughn group is Wednesday, I think, and generally Madison shows up with that. We could ask her there. Because she's a little like Xavier helps run the security labs group within GitHub, and Madison is more part of like their what's the PSIRT, I think, essentially.
Okay.
I was gonna say for M4, my ideology. I don't know if this is possible, Crow, but I know you know some of the.
It's open source. Anything's possible.
I know I think you said that you knew some of the people from Log4j from
Apache.
Yeah.
I could
Talk to
broker
them.
call with the Apache folks. They're mostly over in England, so it'd be a very early call.
Well, I think it'd be good to maybe get, considering that they kind of have like the bug of the century or had like the vulnerability of the century. I feel like it would be really interesting to get their side of it and what they think, like something of a meta PSIRT, what would it be useful to them? Or would it alleviate any problems for them? Or how can we alleviate any problems for them? Because I'm sure that ending up on the front page of every news article site is not useful to them.
Right. Yeah, we could talk to Mark Cox. He has a lot of experience with open source coordination and was intimately involved in the Log4j and
Can I
the
put that down?
OpenSSL. I would prefer you not to put his name on there. He's
Can I
sensitive.
just put Apache?
Yeah, Apache security team. And we talked to the OpenSSL security team at the exact same time.
Okay.
It's the same guy.
Okay. So
And they actually did do something which I thought was interesting. OpenSSL does pre-disclosures where they said a week from now something's going to happen, and I thought that was super useful. Unfortunately, downstream consumers didn't necessarily, but I thought that was super useful to get the actual people that need to do the moving of the bits on notice.
I know that press is something that you also discussed in that video of coordinating vulnerability disclosure, how press could be very unuseful or unhelpful.
Press is extremely unhelpful.
So, because would that be something that we can alleviate as well?
Potentially, we don't.
It's an interesting.
So if it's like a log4shell level issue, possibly, my job is crisis communications. So that's what I do. I talk to the media all the time. There's others of us that do this type of stuff. We definitely can provide pointers and coaching, but I don't want to like become the mouthpiece for a project when they don't. They might not want that, but it's definitely an option we can offer if they are shy and don't want to or want help making a press release. We definitely
how there's also
to do that.
People that have the knack of being able to put their foot in their mouth.
Yeah. And it's hard. A unscary press statement is harder than you think put together.
Yeah. And especially when everyone's trying to find like where you screwed up, so that's the other part.
Yeah. And that could be, also a part of the training we offer or, additional education or resources we can provide. So yeah, it's definitely in the theater of the possible to a service we could offer a maintainer project.
Correct. Now the other problem that is not addressed anywhere here that is addressed in your videos often, and I don't know if that's going to be somewhere in this PSIRT. I don't know if there's anything this PSIRT could really do about it, but is this CVSS?
CVSS, yeah. The scoring.
Yep. Which I can understand why it's an issue.
Yeah, again, that's something we could help if the team, the developer doesn't understand how to do it. We definitely can, share. There's a lot of good resources around how to do that. I helped write the 3.1 standard, so I unfortunately know more about it than I should.
Is that in 2 or is that somewhere?
We didn't talk about severity scoring, but that normally it's the development team or that take a step back. That's normally a point of contention because the person that should do the scoring is the developer and their security trusted advisors, because they understand how the software works best. But the researcher also almost always does their own, and it's almost always
And I'm
higher.
guessing yeah, exactly. That's what I'm gonna say.
But that's something we definitely, if somebody wanted us to help out, we could help. We could provide training and resources. But normally that's something like the developer or their security liaison handles. But who knows?
Fair.
And there's other ways. There's like there's a couple other scoring things that may be more appropriate. And that the boggle with the CVSS is everybody takes that score. Not everybody. Downstream consumers take that score and don't do any of their own risk calculation on it. They just take because CVSS describes how the vulnerability works.
Right.
It's not meant to be a severity. It's not meant to be an indication of risk. Right. And it's up to that team, because it's whoever implemented that software in an enterprise. A developer or a security team that's outside of their org can't tell them where their critical data is, what their business risks are, what their risk appetite is. That's really up to the user of the software to determine kind of what the risk is.
Right. Fair.
But if it's CVSS, oh my God, it's a 10, and everyone goes nuts over it.
Right. And I think that's also what happened with OpenSSL, right? That they kind of like made it sound a lot worse than it actually was.
Right, because it's mostly mathematics based, and it's if X then Y, plus A plus B. There's a formula behind the score, and it's just based off of how the exploit works. It triggers a number, and again, that might not. A bank might have compensating controls, or may have already disabled things so that vulnerability isn't even exploitable. Right. So it's again, I can't. A 10 doesn't really mean a whole lot. Right
on. Well,
it's definitely not a quantitative assessment.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. I will continue doing this. I will finish it up, and I will put my PRs ready to review when it's ready to review. Okay. And yeah, I think we're making progress with this. I'm also making a lot of progress on education, but that's another call.
Good.
So, but yeah, everything is that's what I have so far. I think
I'll send you a blog about a tirade I went on the internet about CVSS and risk.
I would love to read it. I actually really enjoy your content quite a bit, Crow. So, but yeah, but I think beyond that, I think that's everything.
All right. Anything else, Jennifer or Emily, you want to see addressed today?
I think I'm good.
What was the specific areas in section 2 that you wanted me to take a look at?
Star.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, Art has not had as much time to focus on this as his job. He took a new job, and it's ramping up now finally. And so any help we can give Art would be appreciated.
All right. I'll try to see if I have time this week to get through it. When are you looking to have these things finalized by?
I need to, unfortunately, we told the TAC we'd give them the plan this week. That's not happening. So I would like to get something to the TAC, at least, even if it's like a mostly done draft by the Thanksgiving week.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. At the very least, maybe able to clean up some of section 2.
Oh crap, that's next week. By the end of the month, by the 30th.
All right.
It's all racing away.
I think, do we want to maybe, because if you actually read like the star items that I'm on right now on my screen, did we want to like add some?
I'm like star. I need everything read.
No, I know. I know that. I'm just saying right now, because one of the things that a lot of this depends on is kind of like we were supposed to answer some of these questions, right? About like how did we want to go about an engagement model? Because if we don't really have defined, I guess, how we're going to engage, it would be hard to put like an engagement model together.
Mhm.
You see my point?
I do.
Or is that something that we want to like maybe just leave up?
If we don't have the exact model in stone when we turn the report in, that's okay. But we need to say, these are the things we're going to look at and consider. And I would suggest we have some skeleton of a proposed set of services. It doesn't need to be everything. And we know we're going to adjust based off of learnings. And, the whole section 1 is talking to a lot of upstream folks. We're going to learn a lot there that may want us to adjust. But we should have like 3 or 4 things we are going to commit to the first year.
So do we want to maybe agree on this call that we want to pursue maybe this facilitator of communications model for now and then see where that goes? Because you have things like create playbooks, which really wouldn't be done by a facilitator of communication.
Well, that is for, I think, the SIRT itself. Like if situation X happens, pull out playbook 3.
Fair.
And it's basically a checklist to like walk you through what to do.
Well, you say playbook, so I'm a developer. First thing I think of is Ansible playbook.
Oh, well, yeah. This is more of an IR
yeah.
playbook, which is like a checklist of what to do when you're in the crisis.
Correct. Okay. Fair. But would that be a fair way to go? Is that more we're going to be kind of like this engagement facilitator, or because that would facilitate a lot of this, because a lot of this we have, well, some of it's the same. But
we can make an issue, have people vote on it and send that out to Slack and the mailing list saying we need a decision by like a week from whatever day you send it out. Have everybody in the SIG vote.
I can make the issue in the next 20 minutes if you like.
Yeah. So everybody express your opinion on what you'd like to see with our volunteer force.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. I will word that out and I will send it to you on Slack. I'll send it to the whole SIG event or the stream 5.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.